Hey folks, this is Picohan on the North American server, and this is the Tier 9 British battleship, the Lyon. The map is Shatter. It is a standard battle, which is a bit rare for this tier. The matchmaking is of course Tier 10, and a shout out to Mr. Death in the Missouri.
Let's get to it.
So the Lyon. While most people would consider the Monarch very mediocre, I think the meta largely considers the Lyon to be a pretty decent ship. I think most people would also think that she is a strict upgrade over the Monarch, but I think this is not necessarily true, and you can see it in some of the numbers. So first, the good things. The Lyon is faster than the Monarch by 2 knots. She has more range by 2 kilometers, and she has bigger guns. These are 16-inch compared to the 15s of the Monarch. That means you can now overmatch 29mm armor, which is like the bows of Baltimore's or Des Moines, or stuff like that. The AP is, of course, still a short fuse, which is a blessing and a curse. The HE is actually a lot stronger than that of the Monarch. It has quarter pen like the rest of the British line, but it has much better fire chance and somewhat better alpha damage than the HE on the Monarch. Finally, the Lyon finally gets the infamous British super heal, but at the same time, I feel like she kind of needs it. This is a little bit subjective, but I find that the Lyon takes more damage than the Monarch, such that the super heal isn't necessarily a making it better, but it's kind of a making it comparable. Lyon also has a good amount more AA, but it's still mostly mid-range, and it's still mostly stuff that gets knocked out super easily. So in this game, I'm going narrow and Death is going wide, so we can try to set up some sort of crossfire for anybody pushing in. You'll notice I held my fire until I was maybe halfway through this turn, and that's just to minimize the amount of time that I'm showing broadside to anybody who can shoot at me. By the time that the Iowa gets his salvo off, I'm already pretty much done with the turn, and everything just bounces. I had AP loaded at the beginning, but since it looks like this Iowa is just going to camp this island bow on, I switched to HE and I'm going to stick with it. Now that I'm at the edge of my detection range, which is 11.5 kilometers, I am going to slow down and just try to farm this Iowa, who looks like he's already burning pretty nicely. Now, this is one of the downgrades going from the Monarch to the Lyon. The Monarch has a max concealment of 10.9, whereas the Lyon only has 11.5. This doesn't seem that big on paper, but to me, subjectively, the Monarch felt really stealthy, whereas the Lyon just doesn't feel quite the same. This kiting situation also illustrates another downgrade going between the Monarch and the Lion, which is the worst backward firing angle of the B turret. The angle is just bad enough that I feel compelled to wiggle the Lion to unmask the gun, and angle, unmask the gun, and angle, and I did not feel the need to do that on the Monarch. Now, this is mostly a quality of life thing, I guess, but it can affect your DPM if your unmasking is out of line with your cooldown and so on and so forth. And maybe this is something that's more relevant to me because I prefer to play this ship and the Monarch in a fighting manner, but it's not like this thing can go bow in and tank that well in the first place. Also, look at the terrible RNG I've gotten against this Iowa. We whittled him down to 10k pretty easily, but now it's taken like 3 salvos to get rid of that last 10k. Didn't help that he was moving backward and forward like really slowly behind that island, and that was throwing off my aim a bit. I switched to AP right after taking that last shot at the Iowa in anticipation of shooting at one of the broadside targets on the minimap, but by the time the guns are reloaded and I can actually see what the Buffalo is doing, he has already turned out and is kiting. Nonetheless, I'm still going to fire the bat gun such as to not waste the cooldown, and we do get 4,000 damage, so there you have it, don't waste your cooldowns. But now, since that whole flank is falling back, it's time to turn around and start pushing. Really, I should have done this even before the Iowa was dead, but I'll admit I wasn't paying that much attention and tunnel visioned a little bit on that Iowa. Once again, you'll see right after I unloaded the front 2 guns on the Missouri, I switched back over to HE because I anticipate that all of these guys on this flank are going to keep running and they're going to be angled for the next couple salvos. This is mostly important for the Missouri. AP would have been able to pen the Buffalo and the Seattle when they were angled, but since those 2 were very low and now they're dead, I felt that HE was the right way to go. So now we're just going to full speed around this corner. The mobility trade-offs on the Lion, the slightly lower top speed and better rudder shift, smaller turning circle, I feel like are a more balanced, more comfortable set of handling characteristics than the Iowa. The only thing that I kind of don't like is that I think she accelerates kind of slowly. So nothing's going to happen here for the next minute or 2 other than chasing this Missouri. So I'm going to fast forward it a bit. So we've gotten around the corner and this Cleveland shows up. We fire HE because that's what we had loaded. And of course we get 2 fires that he puts out immediately. Switch to AP immediately, although maybe HE could have done the trick, but AP probably more reliable here. Do note that the Lion does not have the fast reload of the Monarch or the KGV. It's a standard 30-second battleship reload, and the only way you bring it down is by using the reload mod. And I think that's pretty conventional because you can't get accuracy, and range isn't quite that useful with your given accuracy. Game-wise, the two teams are doing the little circle dance. They've won the other flank, and we've won our flank. We're up a ship, but they've gotten into our cap faster. I ping the Neptune to see if he can block our cap, since we've got nothing there. And it should be pretty safe in like D6, because none of their heavy ships have really gotten around too far. The minimap makes it look like there shouldn't be anything in the cap after the Missouri leaves, but since we're not ticking, it means that something, probably the Minotaur, has gotten back in, and it's at this point that Def and I decide that I should probably go back to try and help defend. Despite my lower speed, I've actually pulled ahead of Def because I've taken the inside route. This turn was kind of poorly executed. If the gearing had not been right there, I would have gone closer to the island before making the turn, such that I wouldn't have shown broadside to that Missouri for as long as I did. That being said, our last salvo finally kills him, and we're going to try to take out whatever is coming into the middle here. For whatever reason, the Seattle and the Baltimore look like they want to rush the North Carolina, so I'm going to try to help them out. As long as the NC is bowing and angled, HE is the right ammo choice. I give him a bit of broadside in order to shoot the back turret, because I'm pretty confident that he will want to shoot the Seattle instead of me. Though you saw the priority target tick up, which means he thought about shooting me. I switched to AP after that last salvo because I anticipate doing a drive-by, and I think I will have his broadside. If not for this salvo, then for the next one. This is really just ammo switching 101. Now, drive-bys are hard. What I'm going to do with the shot coming up is, rather than try to track the guns while the NC is passing, I'm going to gather them, pointing at a spot where I think the NC is going to pass, and I'm going to shoot the guns as he goes through that point. That time the drive-by went well, but a lot of times it doesn't. So with 4 kills, we get the 4 goal hull award, which is a special reward for the Great 8 event going on right now. I think the reward is a couple camos instead of the usual flags. And with that, we've pretty much won the game. It's 5-2, and the Monty and Conqueror are pretty low. Keeping the AP loaded because the Monty was broadside, and the Conqueror is staying broadside. You'll see with that shot, I aimed for the middle of the hull. As with short fuse, a lot of times you can't pen the thickest belts, and for a Conqueror, you can't hit the Citadel anyway, so I felt that middle of the hull was appropriate. The Monty was already angling, so I switched to HE immediately after the Conqueror went down, And this is annoying that I'm being caught up in his secondary barrage. At first, I was like, what is this? A secondary spec Montana? But I think he just has AFT, which is pretty reasonable for an American battleship. I popped Damacon because I thought it was unlikely that he would get another secondary fire, but he's getting good RNG, and I'm not going to get good RNG. Also, I gave him too much broadside to get that stupid rear gun in action, and I ate a lot of damage for that. Really, what I should have done was not use Damacon earlier, stayed bow in, and this would have been a much safer fight because he can't overmatch me and I can just keep using AG. You see right there, if I'm angled properly, I can bounce basically his full salvo. So we're going to finish this guy off with HE despite my garbage fire RNG here. My closing thought would be that despite its reputation of being more of an HE spammer, the Lyon and the other British battleships as well are actually ships that reward good ammo choice. I don't think this game would have gone better had I only used HE. Now, I had to restart my client shortly after this game, so I don't have the full results, just the first page. All I know is that Death still kicked my ass in XP. What I really would have liked to see, though, is the APHE and fire damage breakdown, because I think it would have been a nice mix for this game. On that note, that's the end of the replay, so have a nice day.